A really big question we get a lot with finding your indie is how much should you be spending on advertising and marketing for your business? This is very subjective, and I want you to keep that in mind as we go forward with this topic. Some people say you shouldn't spend more than 10 to 20% on your growth. Other businesses actually say you should be spending 50% on growth. And really, it just comes down to what can you afford, number one, and number two, how tight are your goals? If you are just trying to figure out what audience you fit best, then maybe you should be asking yourself what kind of promotions you could be doing to keep it bootstrapped. Cheap ones and free ones and newsletter swaps are great ways to find out who your audience is and if you're like hitting the right market. Does it make sense? So you might be like in a newsletter swap with other authors in your genre and find out that you actually don't write reverse harem, you write polyamory. They're similar, but they're also different. So that's what you need to do is figure out if you're meeting reader expectations and market expectations before you start being like, I only do this or I only do that. So then once you figure that out and you know your goals, then you can start saying things like, I'm going to start spending 5% of my income and I'm going to start putting that into advertising for growth. In long term, if you have a long-term strategy, which I highly recommend, a long-term strategy means that you are comfortable knowing with the fact that you have spent 5% and you might not see it for 6 months. 10%, 15%, and 20% is a lot harder to swallow if you understand that you're not going to see it for 6 months. If you already know that your advertising is tight, that's great too. You might be able to see a harder return faster. But remember, long-term strategy is really important. So you should have something going to a magnet or some kind of a growth pattern type of marketing. For instance, you might go to a magnet, you might be on a book funnel promo, you might be doing first in series free, anything to get them in the funnel of reading your books. Once you have that in place, then you can start advertising your other books and you can start putting money into more of a marketing scheme versus just the long-term strategy. So it's all one big, huge wheel, your marketing and advertising. And these are just one little teeny spokes inside those wheels. If one breaks down, the other ones should all be set up so that it's okay if one falters. So if you're only relying on advertising, like ad spend, to bring you in new readers, then you need to actually look at your marketing and advertising strategy and see what you can do to enhance it in other areas so that if one breaks down, the other ones can pick up the slack. It's important that we're not doing just one method of social media, just one method of advertising to our readers, and just one way of reaching our readers. So remember, you're not going to make a crap ton of money on one book, but you might make more money on a bunch of books, all in the same brand that appeal to readers. Okay, that was a lot. I'm on the carpet and it's really comfortable and I might go take a nap. What are you doing today to push your books in the advertising and marketing areas?